into my first salsa class and I meet Ichiro, and he was also there trying to meet women.
I was just trying to learn how to talk to people and not,
Right. So that's how we met each other.
Yeah. Yeah, he was this random dude at salsa class. I still remember the first time I ever saw Rohit. He was sort of like, you were looking pissed. I don't know why.
I thought it made me look cool.
You did look cool. You also looked pissed.
So we did that, and we had a friend circle that kind of grew out of that.
Yes.
We got to know each other through that. Fast forward a couple of years.
No, don't fast forward a couple of years. How about the fact that you had sex with every woman in that friend circle? Like, one time we did a network graph of everybody in our little salsa circle, and it was really incestuous, and at the center of it was Rohit. So
Only partial. It's the pants. So through the salsa, a couple of years later, I met my wife at one of these salsa classes. And through our extended group of salsa friends,
with whom you slept, everybody. Yeah. So I mean, I basically used salsa to meet my wife, Alicia, whom Will, have you met her?
No, I've never met her.
Okay, you'll meet her at PAX East if you're going. Basically, I just walked up and started dancing salsa at her, and she was like, "Oh my God, let's get married!" And I said. So, who in the audience is single? Is nobody in the audience single?
Oh.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you guys are handsome guys. Do you know how to dance?
What kind of dance?
I will teach you how to dance.
Can you guys dance with each other also?
Yeah. You want to, we could. I don't think we could dance with each other, but I mean, we could certainly do the moves, right? On the salsa. I don't think we've ever danced with each other.
No, we have not.
He's Indian and therefore really afraid of touching other men.
That's right.
I have a question. Sure. All right. Well, right now, how large is Dejobaan, and how do you find time to work on 3 different projects at once?
Oh, those are good questions. Can I answer the second one by just screaming at the top of my lungs? So we do a couple of things. Like as maybe many of you guys do, rather than having a big company that is a monolithic entity, we tend to work with people on 1 to all non projects. So we'll team up with a group of people, and then we'll finish a project, and then maybe we'll work on them 2 projects hence. So among 3 projects, we have about 12 people. There's actually some overlap of people between projects, and most of the people that work with us are actually not officially Dejobaan. So with Monster Loves You, Andy Moore of Radial Games is heading up the tech. Mm-hmm. For Drop That Beat Like an Ugly Baby, we have Zaptot, which is Michael Carrier, and Hybrid Mind Studio, which both of whom are local Boston studios, teaming up with us there. So, aside from that, I'd say we have like 6.
So I guess the Drunken Robot Pornography is the one game where it's sort of all Dejobaan people. But I think this is a good point to probably talk about a little bit. A couple of years ago, or until a couple of years ago, we typically did games where we would make a game every 1.5 to 2 years, and then go on to the next game and the next game. And Ichiro and I have been talking for a while and saying, what's a way that we can grow, not so much the studio in terms of the number of people, but how can we start to work on more projects at a time so that everything doesn't hinge on one project? And partly by planning for it and talking about it, and partly based on people we were meeting, we said, hey, wait a second, what if we do it through collaborations? Yeah. So that's basically what we've done. We've grown not by hiring people and taking on all the risk, but by sharing the risk with other studios that we thought were competent and good to work with. And so we said, hey, do you want to collaborate with us? Rev share and risk share. And
talent share.
And so everybody brings something to the table, and so each of these projects is split in different ways. But probably Drunken Robot Pornography, DRP, is probably the one project that's most traditional.
It's
all Dejobaan. We have our artist, our tech guy, our creative guy, and that sort of thing.
That said, I am leading design and project on all three of those things, which is like ridiculous. Just because of the way that those projects have sort of landed in terms of their launch dates, we are probably going to launch them all within the next 2 months, maybe. So that's been a real strain. So ask me at PAX or GDC how I'm doing 3 projects at once, and I might be able to tell you a little bit better.
There are some lessons learned here. I think in part, as you guys know, sometimes schedules change, and so we didn't necessarily plan to launch all 3 projects at the same time, but that's how things have unfolded. And as we grow as a studio and get better and better at planning, we'll plan things slightly differently, I guess.
We'll plan things.
Yeah, we'll plan things. So,
So since you guys have 2 people in Rohit, you do mostly marketing. How come you aren't just staggering the releases and maybe just holding one back? Do you release your games when they're just done, or do you release them when you feel like they're ready?
Good question. So first of all, I don't just do marketing. We're still trying to figure out how to best use me, I guess. But the plan is, yes, I'll be spending a lot of time on sort of bringing in the money, the biz dev stuff. But really, when it comes to like positioning the products and coming up with how we're gonna talk about them, that's something we do together. We spend a lot of time doing that, pretty much 50-50. But the other thing that I think I'll probably get involved in is sort of like trying to help with the project management. But that's not the question you asked me.
Why not?
So why not
intelligently stagger?
Why not intelligent? So I think I'll say there are multiple factors. In part, when you work with other teams, that sometimes other teams have constraints, like maybe they need to get paid sooner or whatever. So because of the fact we're working with different teams who each have different requirements, and they don't all feel necessarily they aren't all experiencing the strain from 3 games. And so while we might like to stagger things in some cases, it's just working out the way it's working out, and they will ultimately get staggered in a little bit. But I suspect we'll find a way to get more benefit from them coming out so close together rather than we'll be able to talk about like, oh, by the way, we also have this other thing, or we'll be able to bundle them or something like that.
They were originally also intended to be staggered. So Drop That Beat Like an Ugly Baby was part of the Portal 2 alternate reality game, the potato thing, if you recall that. That was in 2011. So the playable pre-release launched there. And we were thinking, oh, well, 6 more months and we'll have a game. Well, the game's been in development for 3 years, and I think it's just sort of naturally getting to be the time when it needs to be launched.
Yeah.
And similarly, Monster Loves You was, I mean, this is for the better, but it's taking a few more months to get the design ironed out. So we have a hard launch date on Steam of March 18th, but that was primarily because we just kept trying different little angles, and it's a narrative-based game, which is completely new for us.
Which, by the way, nobody knows that. You guys are the first ones who are hearing that it's coming out on March 18th.
Well, Steve knows.
There's no press about this.
There is.
Yes.
Yeah. But you can tell everyone.
Tell all your friends in the press. We need to get the game pushed back the next 2 weeks.
So if I can briefly answer your question in one word, incompetence.
Good execution, I guess.
So I blog, so can I just get some words from you about that, maybe over email, so we could do an announcement?
Absolutely. Believe it or not, we are just starting to figure out how we're going to launch that. So you'd think, hey, we've been doing this a while. We have a 6-month launch plan cycle, but
No, I mean, this was look, it wasn't that. I mean, I think you're overstating.
No, I mean in the sense that because of how just the way we've had to work on 3 projects, and because of me transitioning from big corporate world to joining Dejobaan 4 days ago, things have sort of been moving, and now it's like, wait, I'm here full time. What can we do? And it's different from what I could do when I was doing Dejobaan 10 hours a week.
That said, the iOS version of AW, Force Equals Mass Times Acceleration, we pretty much had the same thing. We touched very lightly in the weeks before it launched.
That's true.
And we launched with a bang. And I mean, Metacritic gave it so for whatever Metacritic is worth, we were number 10 on the top iOS titles of 2012.
Yeah,
so
like a 90 on Metacritic.
Yeah, so I think
we'll do okay. We'll figure it out.
Gonna be fine.
We'll do it the indie way.
How do you decide when a game is finished?
How do we decide when a game is finished? I guess there are three factors. Number one is when all of the contracts expire for our contractors, right? So if we have a contractor for a year, then we probably need to be finished with the game in a year plus a couple of months. And then number two is if we have an external obligation, right? We just, we say we need to be done.
But I think what often happens is Ichiro will get to a certain point. When he will either say, nope, we're not there yet. This game isn't ready yet, which is why some of the cycles have been, kind of spread out. But then he'll get to a point where he says, you know what, I feel pretty good about this. Now let's decide on the final scope. So at some point we sit down and plan out the rest of the game, like the final. That final refinement period, and I've seen us do that a few times where we don't necessarily have the entire dev period planned out. We'll plan it in cycles, and we'll get to that last bit and say, okay, great. Now that we have all of these ideas, we're gonna do this subset, and that's gonna be the launch title. And at that point, we'll maybe meander a little bit. But typically, once we get to that stage, which is pretty much a judgment call on your part, mixed with some input from people who tested it and tried it. We'll finally just sort of, and that's typically a few months before the actual launch. Typically, is when we get to that.
Yep. Well, and so that's point number three is what you're saying.
Oh, okay. Did I jump to that? Sorry.
No, I think that's it. That you answered the question. I mean, really, when I can sit down and I can play the game, and I can when I first load the game up, and I smile because the title screen says something funny, and I can play through the entire game, and I can just sort of, you can feel it, right? When you know that the press is going to love the game, when you know that the gamers are going to love the game, when it is feature complete, you just, there isn't really, we don't really have a checklist, so I sort of intuit it.
I mean, we certainly. We do it different. I think there's some variation. Like with Drunken Robot Pornography, we said, hey, what if we got thousands of people to play it? And then we said, well, if we do that, we can also build a mailing list in the process. We'll make people sign up for the mailing list to play it. So with that game, we've sent out almost 10,000 Steam alpha keys. Anyone in this group played the DRP alpha by any chance?
Nobody, not a person.
Oh, you guys are all missing out. So we've been sending out the DRP alpha to anyone who's willing to sign up for our mailing list. And so that's different from what we normally do. We don't normally open it up to 10,000 people.
Right. But so when we're getting a lot of good positive feedback, that's also.
Yeah, exactly. And so there people are saying, when are you gonna take my money yet?
I saw you guys.
And the answer to that question then is March 8th is when we're going to take our money.
March 18th.
March 18th.
That's where Monster loves you.
That's for a game that few people have seen.
Yes.
It's kind of the opposite. Yeah.
I just signed up for your mailing list, so if you've got any press releases, then please don't hesitate to send them my way.
Sure, but I will tell you we don't send any news or press releases via the mailing list, only games. So we typically, or